Have you ever wondered how to grow your own neem tree? Well, wonder no more, because in today's episode, I'm going to be telling you everything there is to be known about growing this tree in the ground or in the container, from sun requirements to winter care to how to even water it. Yes, everything there is to be known about growing this tree from experience. Not what somebody just told me, not what I read online, actually from growing this tree for the past few years. So, if you want to get the most accurate and useful information about growing this plant, make sure you keep on watching. So, neem trees. Can you grow one? Of course. That's what I'm doing today. Today, I'm planting a tree in the ground. But usually, anytime that I plant anything in the ground, I don't pick the nicest looking one, like this one right here. This is a 1 gallon, and it's about, I would say, a little over a year old, grown from seed. Today, I'm gonna be picking the ugliest tree. The one that, probably went dry on me, took a little bit of cold damage and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and pick one. And while I'm planting the tree, I'm gonna be telling you everything that you need to know about growing this tree successfully. So these are the neem trees that I have left right here. And so let's see which one's the ugliest one. They're all just started waking up because neem trees technically do not grow until it's really hot at night. But looking at all these guys right here, I think the ugliest one, it's either this one right here that died back from winter damage, and or this one right here. So which one is uglier? Let's take that one right there. Now we got to pick where to plant it. And that brings us to sun requirements. Neem trees take full sun anywhere in the United States, 100% full sun. Can they grow in the shade? If you keep them in the containers, they will take more shade than in the ground. In the ground, they require full blasting sun all day, and the hotter the better. If it takes full sun in my area, I'm in the desert, it will take full sun in yours. So, the hardest part about finding a spot is, well, picking one. I need an area that takes full sun. And I have 3.5 acres here. This place is huge. And this tree right here is actually gonna be the first tree that I'm planting in the ground at this property. But when you have such a big area, believe it or not, it's very hard to choose where to plant your trees, where to start planting. When you have a smaller yard, it's so much easier. So you know what I'm gonna do today? I'm just gonna throw it in the ground. Whatever happens, happens, right? Alright, so I picked a spot. May not be the best one, but who cares? I'm just gonna stick it in the ground, and it is what it is. So the area I'm actually planting it in is, if you guys are into the east and the west, here in Arizona, it doesn't really matter. East, west, by 9:30 in the morning, it's already 100 degrees. If your tree needed shade and you're waiting until afternoon, well, by the time you get some shade, your tree is dead. So, with that said, let's talk about winter care. This tree is actually cold sensitive. If you're not familiar with cold sensitivity, well, just throwing a sheet over your tree, it's just not gonna work. What you need to do is you need to change the ambient temperature around your tree in order to protect it. How can you do that? Well, here in the winter time, containers like this we put in the greenhouse. And well, in the greenhouse we can turn a heater on. Or if you have your tree in the ground, you're gonna have to build a structure around it so that way you can control the ambient temperature around your tree. What is too cold? Okay, it's not so much about the temperature, it's about how long you stay cold. I can tell you, as soon as you start getting in the 20s, your neem tree in this size right here, they will start taking damage. Now, if you stay in the 20s for, let's say, an hour or two, it may not be a big deal. But if you actually get colder than that, it will get destroyed. Or if you stay in the 20s for more than a few hours, it will get destroyed, especially in containers. One thing that I actually noticed personally about neem trees is, as they get older, like the one that you see on the screen right now, that one actually stayed outside all winter. And as you can see, it looks good. A few dead branches, but nothing that like this little guy right here. So that tells me as the tree gets older or it has a bigger root system, it will probably tolerate the winter a little better. Will it ever tolerate the winter 100% without any protection? Well, that depends on the temperatures in your area. If you always get cold in the winter time, well, probably not. If you get frost, well, guess what? Your tree will get destroyed immediately. That one in the container stay underneath my pine trees, so it did have frost protection. All cold sensitive plants will always be frost sensitive. So keep that in mind if you ever want to grow one. So how can you actually grow one in the ground? How am I gonna grow this one in the ground and cold protected? Well, I don't know, guys. I have never planted a neem tree in the ground simply because I knew they were cold sensitive, and that brings us to the root system. The root system of this plant is actually a taproot. It grows straight down in the ground. This is the reason I'm planting it right here, because this ditch right here actually is my main water line that I installed in there. So I got it probably about 3 feet away from there, so that way the taproot can go straight down and you won't have any issues with my water pipe. Can you plant them close to structures? Well, remember, anything that grows fast will break very easily. And that brings us to the tree structure and growth rate. So neem trees, guys, grow super fast. Yes. And a fully grown neem tree will easily get, I would say, in ideal conditions, it will easily get, I don't know, 50, 100 feet tall. So these are big trees, but they are only big trees in tropical areas. Any other areas, subtropical areas, or areas where you actually get frost in the wintertime or it gets too cold, as you can see, this little guy right here, they will die back. This guy was actually inside my shop, and even there it took damage. So that tells you how cold sensitive this plant is. But you know what? We'll find out. Neem trees tree structure is actually upright. They tend to grow upright, and most of the canopy is gonna be on the top. Unless you prune them down or something happens to the tree where it dies back like this, and then you're gonna get several branches through the sides, and then obviously you're gonna get a multi-trunk tree. How fast does this tree grow? Well, this little tree right here, by the end of this year, it is the end of May right now, and by the end of this year, this tree will easily be several feet tall. Yes, several feet tall, guys, in one single year. If you ever grown moringa in the past, this tree has about the same growth rate as a moringa tree. They grow super fast, but in order for that to happen, it needs to be in the ground. They do not like to stay in containers because of their taproot system. As soon as it hits the bottom of the container, they get stunted and they grow a lot slower. That brings us to flowering and fruiting. So how long would it take for a neem tree to start flowering and fruiting? If you grow your neem tree from seed, it will take several years. To be honest, I have never seen a neem tree flower in my area, but I've only been growing them, I would say, for the past maybe 4 years. So I would say it does take a little while for them to start flowering, especially if you grow them from seed. Are you ever gonna find a neem tree grown from cuttings or anything else? I have not. I've looked, but I have never seen neem trees for sale grown from cuttings. Most neem trees grown out there, sold out there, are gonna be grown from seed, simply because they grow a lot faster and it's a lot easier. If I ever get my neem trees to flower and fruit, I will definitely be growing them from cuttings. Fruits, well, once they flower, the fruits are usually ready within just a few months. The fruits are not edible. What you actually use neem for is neem oil, guys. Most people use them in the garden to kill bugs, but do you know you can actually use it for medicinal purposes too, and cosmetic purposes. So it has all kinds of uses, not just as a insecticide. Let's talk about watering. Alright guys, if your neem tree is in a container, always follow the 50% rule. You cannot go wrong with 50% rule. That is, wait until 50% of your container is dry. However long it takes to go from wet to dry to 50% dry, that is how often you water your tree. Now, how do you water your tree once you put it in the ground? Well, this little guy right here, right now, I probably will need to water every single day, because that is how often I was watering this tree in the container. The root system of this plant will take a few months to actually go deep into the soil. So for the first year, I always recommend people to use the finger method and water your trees using the finger method. That is, you water the root ball only, and then you stick your finger in there all the way down, and the minute you no longer feel moisture on the tip of your finger, that is exactly how often you will water your tree. Trees sweat for the same reasons you do. So depending on the ambient temperature around your tree will dictate how often you will water your tree. Do not be afraid to overwater your trees, guys. It takes months to years to actually damage your trees from overwatering. In my area, it takes one single day in full sun, your tree going dry, to completely die. So which one would you rather do? Now, as your tree gets older, remember, neem trees have a taproot system. They go straight down in the ground. You will need to deep water. I got a video specifically talking about deep watering, so you can go ahead and watch that one, link in the description, if you want to learn how to deep water your tree. But normally you don't have to worry about deep watering your tree until your tree is fully rooted in the ground, which normally that takes about 1 year, depending on the ambient temperatures in your area. If you're always cloudy in your area, it's cool, and then the temperatures are not ideal for neem tree to grow, then obviously your neem tree may take longer to actually start to grow. Let's talk about fertilization. Do you need to do anything special to fertilize your neem tree? No, you do not need to do anything in order to feed your plant. In containers, we use a slow release fertilizer. You can see on the screen right here, that is what we use on all our plants. It's nothing special, it's just what I can get locally, and it works on every single plant that we have here in the nursery in containers. Now, if your tree is in the ground, to be honest, nothing special. If you really want to do something for your tree, you can go ahead and use organic material, such as compost or chicken poop or cow poop, but never mix it into the ground. Always put it on the surface, and to keep it moist, you want to put mulch over it, simply because you're not feeding your plant directly when you put organic material on the ground. What you're actually doing is you're feeding the living organisms in the soil. All the little critters in there, you're feeding them. And they need water in order to actually survive and process the organic matter. So that's the reason why you put mulch in there, to keep it moist so they can eat it up. Once they poop, if their poop is small enough when mixed with water, then your plant is going to be able to benefit from that. That is a very long process. It takes months and months, if not years. So that's why I always tell people, do not worry about too much about feeding your plants, especially when you first put them in the ground. Concentrate on watering, because that's going to be at least 95% of the work. Container growing. Can you grow a neem tree in a container? As you saw earlier, yes, you can grow them in containers temporarily. Can you keep them in a container long term? Yes, you could, but remember, you're not going to get the full potential of your tree if you keep them in a container. It will never flower and fruit in a container, simply because there's no container out there long enough to support the taproot system of this plant. And that's the main reason why you will never see a neem tree flower and fruit in a container, unless that tree rooted itself through the bottom of that container and into the soil, giving you the impression that it's actually a container plant that is flowering and fruiting, when in reality it's not. It's rooted in the ground. That will happen with many trees out there, like mulberry trees, moringa trees, for instance. But if you want to grow it in a container, yes, you can, for propagation purposes, or maybe so you can brag to your friends that you have a neem tree. But if you actually want full potential out of your tree, I highly recommend you to stick it in the ground. Once you put it in the ground, it will grow 100 times faster than if you actually keep it in the container. This little tree that you see right here, it's actually about over a year old. If this same tree had been in the ground, by right now it probably easily would have been 6 to 8 feet tall. And you can see the size difference. And that's simply because it was in the container. Alright guys, and that brings us to my personal growing tips. So neem trees guys, the key to growing neem trees is night temperatures. You need really hot night temperatures for your neem tree to grow. If your day temperatures are hot, but your night temperatures are cold, your neem trees are not gonna grow. I promise you, no matter what fertilizer you use, it's just not going to grow. It needs heat, but also you need light. So if you have a neem tree and it's not growing, well, two things are happening. One, you probably have it too shaded. Two, you don't have enough heat. What is enough heat? Well, my neem trees every year usually start to wake up as soon as the ambient temperatures stay consistently around in the 70s, and they will grow even faster if the temperatures go higher. But if the temperatures just stay cool, they just like to stay looking like a dead stick. In the winter time, neem trees will drop their leaves in cooler areas. So if you get cold in the winter time and your neem tree drop all its leaves, that is normal. Don't worry about it. Make sure you frost protect your tree and cold protect them, because if you don't, your neem tree is going to die. If you want to propagate your own neem trees from seed, there's one requirement. You need fresh seeds. It's extremely hard to find honest people online that will tell you, actually everybody will tell you their seeds are fresh, but they're not. And a lot of the times when you buy seeds online and you sprout them, they will not sprout because they're all seeds. How long? What's the longest you can go before planting a fresh seed? In my experience, I would say a month tops. I would not go any longer than that. Anything longer than that and your seeds start to dry out, it's just not gonna work. They need to be fresh, and you need to stick them in the soil as soon as possible. So if you try growing neem tree from seed before and you failed, well, now you know why. Because the seeds were not fresh. So how can you find fresh seeds? Well, my recommendation is to buy them from areas where these trees grow like weeds. Hawaii, Puerto Rico, South Florida, and usually they are flowering and fruiting during the summer months. So if you find a seller that is in those areas, your chances of getting fresh seeds are gonna be a lot higher. Use common sense. Do not buy from a seller located in New York, Alaska. Come on guys. These trees are not gonna grow in those areas naturally unless you grow them in a climate controlled greenhouse, and most people do not have those. So this is my little neem tree right here, planted in the ground. You guys saw it, you witnessed it, my first tree in this property. And the next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put a little cage around it, because this area is just open, guys. A lot of critters out here, and they're hungry, and if they see something new in the ground, they're gonna eat it up. So I'm gonna have to put a little cage around it, and it should be okay until it gets a little bigger. Once it gets a little bigger and thicker trunk, it shouldn't have any issues with the critters. So right now what I need to do is I just need to lightly water it, and then I'm probably gonna have to do that every single day. And then I'll keep you guys posted on the progress of this tree. I have no doubts this tree is going to grow. Most of the trees that you see on my videos, guys, they all looked like this. I picked the crappiest looking trees, the ones that almost died, the ones begging for a second or third chance, and I put them in the ground. And as you guys seen in my videos, all my trees look amazing. So anyways guys, if you have any questions regarding neem tree, if I miss anything, check the description below. I have all the details in there, and or you can comment below as well, and I will gladly answer your questions. As always, if you like the video, don't forget to like it, guys, so that way more people can see what true gardening is about. All the information seen in this video given to you was learned from personal experience. Not something that I learned online, not something that somebody told me, not something that I read online. Experience, unbiased, that will actually work if you follow it. I will see you next time.